Good afternoon. Captain, can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, I think people are dropping in. There are 12 in the group. Uh, how many are there registered? 35 odd? I was wondering because this session continues to be business publication ethics. It is supposed to be a philosophy session. Yeah. So there are 16 in the room, and I think we should start. Is it okay to start? I can't hear anybody. Yeah. So today is our philosophy's first class, and you have had already a session on business ethics, and this is the second session of the day post lunch, and that to philosophy, right? So sometimes it is difficult to visualize and imagine a session on philosophy in the afternoon, particularly the first one. But philosophy is a little different from other subjects, and there could be possibly some misconceptions about philosophy. So before getting into that, I'll just introduce quickly myself, and then we'll get on to the session. My name is Dr. Pravin Dange. I am a management faculty and have been in academics for almost 20, 30 odd years, mainly into academic administration. Philosophy is an interest area for me, and as a researcher, yes, of course, one needs to deal with philosophy also. Uh, that's good enough for the time being. Let's get on with why we require philosophy. And I don't know how do we set the methodology. The first session I've made it on based on the PPTs, but unless interactions are there, some kind of lively um, interactions happen in the class, the it would be very difficult to conduct a philosophy class, right? So all are muted. All are they there? There are 18 participants I can see in the class. Can I have some sense of audience being there? Yeah, RMS. Right. So starting with philosophy, what do you think is philosophy? Anybody? Shall start sharing a presentation, and we'll deal with it as we go along. The first question is, what is philosophy and why do we require philosophy in research? If you could give me, are there any misconceptions around philosophy? Why do we need to study this subject as a part of a PhD scholar? Particularly, you belong to computer studies as a faculty, and what is the locus standi of philosophy in computer studies? Does anybody have any response to that? Okay, philosophy. Um, uh, Understanding of logic. Yes, logic is important. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So philosophy, by the term itself, means that um, wisdom, right? Knowledge, and because we are in the process of generating knowledge, philosophy is important. For a researcher, it is also important. Uh, okay, I'll tell you a small story how I got involved in philosophy. Right? I I hope you're listening. Right? Um, I was with. I happened to interact with one of the sadhus who was after some kind of pursuit of emancipation. Right? I happened to ask him a question, small question. Right? Uh, by then I had heard about Advaita, and there was I asked him a question, sir, what is Advaita? Right? And then he said it is not so easy. We'll have to do a session on that, right? So instead of session, he asked me a simple question. He said, "You seem to be inquisitive," and he asked me a simple question. He asked me, "Who are you?" Right? I told him, "Sir, I'm Pravin, and my name is Pravin Dange. So that is your name. Who are you?" Then I kept on answering, I'm an engineer, I've done this, and so many ways I tried to satisfy that question. But every time he came back to me saying that it is your referential identity, with some reference you're talking about yourself, right? What is your absolute identity? And a pursuit of that question, who are you, is Advaita. Someday you will reach that, right? And that's what he said. Then that raised my curiosity further. And then when I got into academics, some of the questions, for example, we are in a kind of conflict. For example, um, we our Eastern thought process, right, is based on what Shankaracharya spoke about, right? Shankaracharya said, श्लोकार्धेन प्रवक्ष्यामि यदुक्तम ग्रंथ कोटि भी है, राइट? कोटि ग्रंथों में जो लिखा है, आई विल टेल यू इन हाफ अ श्लोक. एंड ही सेड, ब्रह्मम सत्य जगन मिथ्या जीवो ब्रह्मैव नापरा, राइट? सो Atman and Brahman are the same, and pursuit of this reality is what we all follow. Whereas there is the other end of it, right? The other side of it is Rene Descartes. Rene Descartes rationalism, he said, I exist, therefore I am. Right? One statement talks about I am, therefore I exist, and the other end of it is I exist, therefore I am. Now you would see the reflection of these in our general lifestyles too. Indian way of living, right, is based on renunciation. Western way is based on consumption. We value society and family. We say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Western values are individualistic. We look for solace inside. Western system looks for solace outside. Right? These are diametrically opposite streams. We are brought up in a particular system and they need to comply with another system. So that conflict brought me to philosophy. And taking it further for the what is the relevance of philosophy in research and what essentially is philosophy? Philosophy is human mind does not like incomplete things. It is a curious entity, right? It looks for answers. Olden days there was no language, but after the advent of language, right, people started creating myths. Myths are one of the ways in which we could satisfy our curiosity. Right? Myths, when tested on reason, it became philosophy. When philosophy established with facts, it became science. So it is a story from myths to philosophy to science. That also remember, today's philosophy is tomorrow's science, or tomorrow's science is the after's myth. Right? So philosophy is otherwise a very interesting subject. If somebody is curious and wants to get into it, it is important for research too. So the first we'll start with why philosophy matters in research. Right? So there are
तो ये फेंक दो हैंडल दो तार वाले
sorry,
सेंसिटिव है वो
is somebody speaking. Can you please mute? So let us take a look at this vignette. Is benchmark score an objective fact? I wanted to share a live poll, but instead of that, I'll just ask you a question. Can somebody respond to this? Is benchmark? Do you think is score accuracy, latency, uptime an objective factor of value which has been dressed up as a number? Anybody? See, two researchers. It is a question: is a benchmark score accuracy, latency, or uptime? Right? Is an objective fact or it's a value judgment? Based on your perspective, how do you look at it? Yeah, some people would think it is objective, some people would say it is subjective. Maybe as many people, as many differences, but why does it happen? An objective number having different opinions about it. Take the case of this vignette too. Two researchers evaluate the same trained model on the same test set. One calls it state of the art, the other one calls it identical number and artifact of biased benchmark. Somebody thinks it is biased, somebody thinks it's an objective judgment. Same data, but we draw opposite conclusions from the same data. Why does it happen? And that's where the answer lies in the philosophy and the assumptions that you make in making those judgments. The role of a researcher is to generate knowledge, right? Fundamentally, all PhD scholars have to generate some kind of a knowledge or other. But it raises two questions, right? It sounds subtle, but it isn't. Two important questions it raises. One is you generate knowledge, but about what? What kind of a thing is a phenomenon you're studying? Right? Code quality, security, developer experience, management, culture, right? It could be anything. But you are generating knowledge about something, right? And there are questions like, does it exist independently of you or only through how people perceive and construe it, right? For example, the, the concept of Maya. Maya means means no, not, and Ya means that which is not. Indian conceptualization of reality in Advaita is Maya, that which is not. It's an illusion, right? So, what are we generating knowledge about? And that question is the first question, which is very important to be addressed. That question is about reality. The second question is about how, right? What are you willing to accept as valid evidence? measurement at scale. So there are two questions. One is what is reality and how do we know that reality? The first question and the second questions, both questions are important to be addressed before we are in the generate any kind of knowledge, right? But the question is the reality same for every researcher? Same question, two researchers, two incompatible answers. What is code quality? In your own computer parlance, if I ask you what is code quality for you, right, you would get different answers to that. Code quality is a property of the code itself, measurable through complexity, coupling, and bug density. It exists whether or not anyone measures it, and two tools should converge on the same answer, right? So here the researcher A is believing that the reality is objective and mind independent. It does not vary with mind; it remains the same. There is one reality, and it continues to be the same across. And there is another researcher who says code quality is judgment. What counts is good with team norms, review culture, and what stakeholders value this quarter. It is construed through practice, sitting in the code, waiting to be found. So reality is not an objective construct. It is constructed and is context bound. There are two different views on this. Okay? So a same concept being seen differently by two different researchers. What is the variation? What is the variation? Another example we take climate anxiety. There is a UN study which has done studied to several people and how what does climate anxiety, climate change anxiety means to people. And they say climate anxiety is real, measurable psychological state comparable across a teenager in Lagos and one in Helsinki. A validated worry scale run the same way in 10 countries in picking up one underpinning phenomenon, not 10 different ones. So again here, reality is objective, mind independent. And there is another researcher who thinks that it is a constructive, that it means different things to different people. There is no single climate anxiety as a measure. A coastal Filipino teenager grieving or vanishing shoreline and French teenager afraid of policy failure are living genuinely different realities. Averaging them into one score erases exactly what matters. So reality is socially constructed and context bound. So there are two different opinions about reality. So what is it? How do we know? So there is another question is knowing the same as for every researcher as the reality could be different for different researchers. Knowing is the same. Knowing reality and the knowledge of the reality. How can we know a developer debugging skill has improved? Say debugging skill is one notion. How do we know that it has improved? So there are two perspectives of looking at it. One is measure it, time to fix, defect, recurrence rate statistically compared before and after training across a large enough sample to trust the member. So valid knowledge is measurable, replicable evidence. Researcher B is interpretivist epistemology. Ask them interview developers about how their own sense of intuition and confidence is changed. The numbers alone can't capture what is getting better, feels, or means to them. So there are two different extremes of the same continuum as to how do we know reality. So we are talking about two concepts here. One is ontology and the second one is epistemology. Ontology is what is reality, what constitutes reality for you, and epistemology is how do we know that reality, right? And there are different perspectives on ontology. The perspectives are, it's like a continuum. Idealism to reality is fundamentally mental, made of ideas, not matter. The example of that is song is more truly the melody in your mind than the sound waves carrying it. But the other extreme is realism. Realism exists independent of the mind. Mind has got nothing to do with it. The far side of the moon existed long before any camera photographed it. If a tree fell in the jungle, it would still make the sound whether anybody hears it or not. Right? Materialism is only physical matter is real. Even thought reduces to it. So materialism considers that even thoughts are material matters. Love is not mysterious. It is neurons and chemistry, nothing more. Relativism is what is real or true depends on your standpoint. Polite behavior is in one culture reads as rude in another. There is another school of thought in ontology which is called phenomenology. Reality is considered through lived experiences, and it is all experiences not objective; they are through lived experiences. Reality exists independently of mind. That is realism, observed or not. Critical realism is the mind actively structures that we perceive, what we perceive. You don't uh, see time passing. Your mind supplies the frame onto raw sensations. Feminism is whose experience counts as normal reflects who holds power. So these are different perspectives on how people look at the reality, right? And similarly, there are views on what constitutes knowledge, that is epistemology. Rationalism, knowledge comes primarily from reason, not the senses. You can know 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 by pure logic without counting anything in the world. Empiricism, which is the other extreme, holds that knowledge comes from sensory experiences and observations. You know, fire is not because you have felt it, it's because you have reasoned your way up there, way here. Pragmatism, knowledge judged by whether it solves the problem, and positivism, knowledge from measurement and testable hypothesis. So there is also another third variable hiding in the room which we are not considering as of now beyond ontology and epistemology. That is axiology. Each one holds his own values. Every choice above was already shaped by something else, what the researcher personally cares about. Axiology, the role of researchers' own values in shaping what gets studied, how and what counts as a good outcome. Just to help you with a quick example, a researcher who values developer well-being frames productivity around sustainable pace and burnout risk. A researcher who values shipping velocity frames the very same word around throughput and deadlines. Same word, same team, different research questions because different values were already at work. I would like to stop here for a second and would like to talk to you. Yeah. So if you're there in the class, just click on some indication of that you are in the class. There are 27 people in the class, right?
Yes, sir. There are 27 people in the currently in the class.
27 people, but no responses. So can I ask a few questions to you, to the class, and I would.
Sure, sir. You can
Uh,
ask the questions.
yeah. So what is your understanding of research? And why do we need to study philosophy? Right? What is the relevance of philosophy in the research? Or it's just a subject because it is a subject which is a part of the syllabus and one has to complete that part mandatorily? It's imperative, and that's why all are doing it. Or do you really think there is relevance of this?
So basically it's kind of a process that we tend to based on the question we do a structured way of finding the solution to it, and trying to get some creative and innovative kind of connectivity knowledge in this part. When we speak about philosophy and research, they both are interconnected. Like, it's based on the understanding of the knowledge, and we validate the data, whether it is false data or it's true data, and what connectivity it can have, and what kind of development it can do for our research questions. In sense,
Hmm.
in that, like, we are
So,
basically trying to investigate some uh, reality through the research, like.
so research is about exploring some kind of a reality.
It's not about exploring some kind of like, you have a question, you're trying to get the connectivity with the real time data, and you're trying to say, yeah, this kind of data is there, and it can be more you can say more innovative, or can have a kind of different findings for this part, which maybe nobody it was already existing and people have not seen those part of that data, I can say, or
Yeah,
that part of the knowledge,
but then
but in
it
an
is,
ethical way.
yeah, uh, Rahita, right?
Yes,
Rahita.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, then it becomes simple. There is a research question that you have, and you want to solve that by connecting data. Why do you need philosophy for that?
So philosophy is basically the wisdom that you have to do the research work. You take some kind of, you consider all the aspects, the ethical way of following the flow of the research, which can, others can benefit through it. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, tell me.
but prefacto, why do you? Because you generate knowledge. No, you would generate wisdom through your research. You will answer that question, and you will get answers. The answers is wisdom.
Yeah, but you're even like, your part of research is going to help somebody to study more in depth. Now, for example, like, if I take relatively to AI in education. Now, when we speak related to this, the children feel that, okay, AI is something related to a robot only, but they don't have the clear aspect of knowledge. How does it get connected to the robotics, or how we are connecting it to the other aspects of AI? When we speak about AI, they take it to the robotics part itself, but there are many different aspects in AI. So it's like we are giving them a pathway that the flow of the AI is like this, and it can be acknowledged in different forms. So that part of connectivity you're trying to get with the part of the research, like. And most of the, like, when other thing, like, teachers use some of the applications related to AI applications in their teaching and learning like, in the teaching process, but even they should know back end how this part is working, how the information is been collected over this part, and how it is generating the data. So some kind of a connectivity that is missing, you try to connect those parts with the
So,
your research part and all.
but Rita, you're essentially
I'm not sure.
talking. You're talking about the connects between methods, right? The logical connects between method. So it's more of
uh,
methodology than a philosophy, right?
so, but it involves both, right? Even the philosophy and the methods also.
So in the earlier slides, we discussed one or two examples. Say, for example, benchmark or one or two extremes examples,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
in the light of that, why do we need to study philosophy, and why is it necessary for every researcher to have a some kind of understanding and of philosophy? Otherwise, it is an art subject, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling, sir. The flow of that research is where the philosophy comes in, where you verify whether your data is you verify whether the methods are going in the right form or no, whether you're doing it in the ethical form or no, or what, like, okay, are you using false data, are you using the true data, are you collecting it, are you collecting the responses from the people or from the organization where you're trying to do your part of research or trying to fit it. So all these things are through the philosophy. Research
Hmm.
is basically not only related to the part of the question, but the method that we are speaking about, the getting that part of the wisdom and the ethical rights and consideration, so that you're not doing the cut copy paste from somebody's else research paper. So all these things part gets connected with the philosophy, right? If I'm not wrong, I can others also can speak on this part, but I'm just telling my point
Yeah,
of
yeah,
view.
because you're speaking and I'm interacting with you. Without
Yeah, yeah,
interaction, the philosophy class
I
cannot
agree.
proceed. Yeah. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
yeah. If anybody else also can
So
ponder their
to
thoughts on this.
Rahila's point, I would like to add that for me, if I think about philosophy, it's thinking out of the box, and it might be a process of thinking itself about the knowledge that I've chosen as a topic or a research. So it teaches me how to think about the knowledge or different perspectives or opinion and the data, which might be visible in a form of a understanding of a literature or analytics, but then behind the picture of it. So it teaches the process behind that. I think if this is what I understood about philosophy. Maybe I'm right or not, I'm not sure.
No, let us explore it further. There are no standard right or wrong answers. But the fundamental question that why do we need philosophy, right? We are in the process, we are researchers, we want to generate knowledge. And generation of
But
knowledge is testable
in
propositions, test them.
philosophy, we look into different perspective and opinions as well. It's not only just one perspective the researcher might have. If we are referring a paper or we are looking into relevant papers, we're thinking about the process of that person or that scholar might have thought and come up across that call paper, right? So it is not only talking about the person's perspective, but it's also talking about my own perspective there, how I'm taking it. So the process of knowledge and the exploring part, it's different for different persons. So I think that's
Correct.
philosophy where how the person is taking it and how the person is thinking out of the box about it.
So got something to do with the assumptions and beliefs of the people.
So, but assumptions and beliefs have to be into the right direction. You just can't take, okay, he or she has assumed it like this, so let me take it as my part of the data. You need to have a kind of, the thorough, you can say the thorough kind of data behind the assumptions also. Why did they do so? What made them to assume so? So even this part is included into this philosophy. As Nia has said, it's a kind of a process. That's what we are, like, it's a method where we tend to follow certain things that, okay, it has to be in this form. So let's collect this way also, that way also, and then analyze our part. Where are we heading? Are we heading in the right direction? Is it going in the right form? Or there's some missing parts in this? So it's a complete process, I can
Yeah.
say. If
But
somebody else
Well,
also
is it a
like
feels
you
free to.
standard?
said, there is no right or wrong, and we also believe that every idea is the best idea. It's just because of the right time and the right concept it matches. So philosophy is something which keeps on going, going, going. There is no end, I believe, and
Yeah, it
it's
keeps on
just
going in
thoughts.
circles and circles without any.
It's just the thought processing.
Yeah, the instrument of philosophy is thought, right? Instrument, that's it. Thinking is the instrument, reason is the instrument of philosophy. But the question remains, right? If how do we know this is why the philosophy, for example, somebody does research and say, "Okay, this is my output. I've collected data, and this is the knowledge that I've generated." Somebody accepts it, somebody doesn't accept it.
So we are
There
just
could be
trying to
debates.
interpret, like, okay, our data is based on this, and we're trying to interpret what can be the solution for it. So you're following a complete methodology here, that okay, we start from this part and we are ending it with this. We are taking, in fact, all the inputs from whichever direction we want. So you're trying to prove that this part of the data is applicable for this thing, not for the entire question. So the data can be divided into different parts to get a thorough, or you can say a complete understanding of that research question. So there, the process is required. So the process can be into bits, or it can be a full one towards.
Also to
Okay.
that we can look into the evidence based, so how many evidences we have been collecting throughout the process. That will be the full part of philosophy as well. So
Hmm.
what is right and what is wrong, it depends again in that process.
So philosophy is helps you get a consistent thought process, right?
Yes, sir. Basically, justify what we have researched, or how much is the right and how much is the wrong. Basically, evidence on the evidence collection and the process that comes up
So
on the
you,
conclusion part.
so what you're saying, ki, I need to collect data to validate or test my assumptions or whatever propositions I have, and for identifying the right data collection tools, I need a philosophy.
Yes, sir. So, because without philosophy, how we will be come to know that if it is right or wrong, or the conclusion made are truth or no?
Okay. So we
So
spoke about
basically,
three.
we need the thinking process and right process on that. So I
Yeah.
think philosophy will justify my research. That's what I can say at the moment.
Justify your research output or knowledge. The
Output,
question.
knowledge, and everything, data analysis, everything is a part of philosophy. I feel at the end
Yeah.
for my
So,
research.
so as a researcher, everybody wants to know some part of the reality, right? You believe that there is some reality around, and as a researcher, it is my job to bring that out and bring it out as a knowledge for everybody to understand, right?
Yes, sir.
And in the process, there are
Yes, sir.
two things that we spoke about. One is ontology, and the second one is what is reality, right? That is ontology, and the second thing, how do we know and how do we ensure that whatever we are generating is knowledge,
Hmm.
right? And there
Right.
are multiple belief systems about the reality, and multiple belief systems about how do we know what we want to know, right?
Yes, sir.
So, and axiology is about the value systems of the researcher, right? Say, for example, a black person studying some issue, racial discrimination issue in America, right? He would have his own ethical systems, belief systems, whereas a white person would have his own belief systems. An Indian,
Yeah.
yeah.
So definitely, yes, they would have their own, way of approaches and other things. But ultimately, they will be having some expert person where they'll be evaluating this data, right?
Mhm.
The evaluation is main part when we are doing the research, so that our evaluation is going in the right directions. The like when we take it also on the aspect of collecting the data, we go with right and wrong both. Right. We go
Mhm.
with right and wrong both the parts. Why do we go with the wrong? To understand why it was wrong, and why do we go with right? To know why it is right. So even the false data also somewhat plays a part in the research question, if I'm not wrong.
The false data or is it's a part of ethics, right? Of course, connected with philosophy. But here the question is, whenever I'm doing some research, right? I'm trying to generate knowledge. What is my conception of reality? How do I see reality? Right? Is the reality objective? So look at the Indian and Western concepts, right?
Sir,
As a
in that way we might have evaluation standards, right, that we need to follow, because even in if you're in academics as well, there are some standards that we will follow, so where the biasness would not be taking over place, even if I'm thinking in my own perspective, but still I know that in the academic parts I need to follow the standards
no standards would be
for
there.
evaluation.
Peer review is there, and for a researcher, because it's generation of new knowledge, there are no standards set, right? What would generally happen is will be based on the concreteness of the thought process and the scientific methodology, whether you adopted a scientific methodology or not. Therefore, the consistency in the thought process and beliefs and assumptions, methods, data collection tools, perspective approaches that matters. Philosophy helps you build consistency across your belief systems. Question some of the beliefs, whether they are consistent together. If I'm saying ki I believe in a reality which is, say, a standard reality, right? A reality which exists across and objective reality. Let's say height as a measure, right? If you take an instrument measure height will be same everywhere. It cannot be subjective. But if you want to measure pain, right, or response to pain, it is going to vary across based on interpretation of the people. How do people take pain, right? So purpose of philosophy in research is to build a consistent system of beliefs and assumptions about my research work. And those are related to three areas. One is entomology, second is epistemology, and third is axiology. And there are different thought processes. People have explored this in earlier days, and they have um, evolved some schools of thought. Whether my thought process aligns with the schools, is there a justification for that? That independently I need to decide, and which contributes to my research, that I have to decide. So we'll come back to the presentation. This is where we were. I hope everybody is on the same page.
Sir, if I might not wrong, you have concluded saying that we have to make sure through our research. I mean, we have to conclude our own belief, what we are thinking, and convince the parties about the research we have conducted. Is that what you're saying about the philosophy?
We need to ensure that whenever we do research, we engage in the research effort. What is the purpose that we do research for? We want to generate knowledge, right? The
Yes.
first question comes out is about what? What am I doing? What knowledge am I generating? About what? How do I see that reality? Is it an objective reality, or is it an interpretation of the reality? How do people see reality? For me, take example. For example, this specs is there, right? Is it an objective reality, or is it that because I'm seeing it is a reality, right? It is reality in my perception. It doesn't. Does it exist in reality? Right. So science has been changing. For example, take the Newtonian mechanics and Einstein, right? People have been trying to find out a simple answer to this question: what is reality? Initially, people were trying to find out, the Ionians and Greek people tried to find out what is the basic constituent of anything, right? What is the essence of the smallest element which constitutes everything. From there onwards, people moved on. Then people said ki it is not just what it matters, how things have come and why they have come into play. So people started to try to find out what is the material cause of things. Then they moved on to the efficient cause and the final cause, right? And the answers to those questions about reality are: who am I, right? What is the world like? What is the concept of beauty? What is the world around me, right? So questions about, people started investigating about this and evolved different conceptualizations and thought process around that. So we need to write on their backs, find out whether whatever assumptions I'm making about my research, are they valid, and are they consistent or not. That is what I need to do as a research scholar. I hope I'm answering your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So as we go along, we'll understand a little better. So as I said, reality, it is, take an example of a photographer. If there is a beautiful sunset happening somewhere, and there are two photographers. One says, he is in looks at the sunset as, and takes a photograph of a cloud. And somebody who says, unless I am there in the somewhere in the picture, it does not make sense to me. My experiences, lived experiences, are more important to me. For somebody, the objective reality could be important. So as a researcher, what is my assumption? What is my belief? Right? That's about reality. How do you see reality? The second question is, if it's raining outside, how do you know that it is raining? Some people would say, because it is, I can see rain, I can feel it, I can touch it, it is raining. Somebody would say, because my mobile is showing that it is raining. Whether I trust that data on the mobile, and I trust it is raining. So how do I know? There are two processes here: understanding of the reality, and how do we know reality, right? And of course, the third part, value system. So these three things, assumptions about this, are important. And what actually a researcher uh, has to do is this. Of course, we looked at these different schools. This is what I will come back
Sir,
to
I
this.
have a
This is,
question about the
yeah.
reality. Uh, Likewise, you said for touch and feel things, that's fine because, of course, it's evident. Like I can feel the rain or I can see the rain. It's raining. But how about in our research theories? when I'm referring to some papers or researchers for my concepts, then in that sense, how will I conclude that this is reality or not?
No, you have conceptions about reality. You have there are assumptions, there are belief systems. So, for example, I told you earlier example that we Indians and the outside world, there are two different diametrically opposite conceptualizations. I am, therefore I exist, and I exist, therefore I am. The concept is, what do we call an individual in India? In Hindi, Sanskrit, we call him a Vyakti, right?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
right? Vyakti
Yes,
is
sir.
what? Expression. There is an essence that leads to expression. So व्यक्त होता है वो व्यक्ति है. Whereas in case of Western concept, what we call individual, the last element, right, which cannot be divided further. Different है ना?
Yes, sir.
Then second example I would give, what do we call when we ask somebody what is how do you make living, right? What is your occupation in English? हिंदी में हम क्या पूछते हैं? आपकी उपजीविका का साधन क्या है? Am I
Yes,
right?
sir. Yeah, I got you, sir.
तो उसको उपजीविका क्यों कहते हैं? It does mean that there is something bigger than उपजीविका, right? There's some jivika,
Yes, sir.
the
Yes,
purpose
sir.
of life, the essence of life.
Yes, sir.
So there is a difference between the essence of life, the way we perceive it, the Western world perceives it,
Okay, sir.
right? Within
Yes.
us also there are differences. Somebody who is trained in science would tend to believe the reality as objective reality. Somebody who has studied in arts medium, you would tend to be a little more interpretivist in stance. Look at individual differences. The reality for him is as perceived, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the reality varies based on your perspective, and what part of the reality and how you want to study it is the answer that you need to give. And as long as it is consistent and defendable, it should not be a problem. So I would like to take you to this diagram, uh, source diagram, where he talks about an onion, research onion, right? There are layers of this onion. Can you see this diagram? Am I sharing this? I think I need to share this, right? Just 1 second. See, philosophy without interaction is really difficult to teach. So look at this onion, right? There are layers of this onion. The topmost layer is of philosophy. From this layer, you need to reach this your data collection and data analysis tools. That's a process. So first you need to understand what is my philosophy, what is my understanding of reality, what is my understanding of epistemology, what kind of logic do I want to use it for, approach I want to practice, whether it is deductive or inductive. Then I get into my research strategies, whether it is experiment, surveys, case study, action research, and then further I get into specifics of methods, mono method or mixed method or multi methods I want to apply, and then I want to do time horizon. I want to decide whether it is cross sectional or longitudinal research, and then finally into data collections. So once you follow this process, probably you will reach the right data collection tools. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is where we want to reach. But before and getting into that, we need to understand what are the different perspectives, existing perspectives in research. And that's where we were talking about these different kinds of perspectives, right? Ontological perspectives, idealism. Some people think reality is fundamentally mental, right? It comes from ideas, right? And there is no objective reality as such. Ideas only matter, idealism. So, for example, a song means a lot. Is the sound waves don't mean anything to me. It's the concept of the song which is important. Whereas materialism, only physical matter is real. Even thought reduces to it, right? So these extremes are there. And we need to understand these extremes as a part of this 15-hour course, and then finally arrive at our this thing. For simplification of this process, there are some continuums that I have created here. Can you see this slide?
Yes, ma'am.
So from ontology, there are different perspectives. Positivism, right, to postmodernism. Epistemology, objectivism to subjectivism. Value free to value laden, that is axiology. From mythology, quantitative mythology to qualitative mythology. These are two extremes, and all these there are different proponents of different processes which would fall somewhere on the continuum. So you need to find out your way as to you need to find out what is my research, what reality I am trying to assess, what is my ontological. So decide on the philosophy, then decide on the approaches, decide on the and then keep on going as the um, time horizon, choice, strategy, and all these things. Right. So I would like you to. So fundamentally, we were talking about different perspectives. And in computer studies literature, it is difficult to because most of the people would think that they are focusing only on objective reality. They see reality as an objective one particular reality, and even if multiple people say, look at that reality, right? The reality is going to be the same, but there are different perspectives which we need to realize there are different perspectives, and we also need to understand what perspective am I adopting. So I'd like you to do an exercise. um, so there are two articles that I'll circulate in chat, right? These are two talk about two different extremes of perspectives, right? And you need to understand the ontology and epistemology of those perspectives. Should I circulate that?
Yes, sir.
These are open access articles. One second, I'll have to put this. These are open access article. If you could take a look at those articles and find out so that we can discuss about the details of these articles, right? Have you got the links? I can paste those articles also. So these are the two articles that have circulated: software code quality measurement implications for metric distribution, and a grounded theory of debugging in professional software engineering practices. These are context. Don't just scan the articles. You don't have to go through the whole article. Scan the methods part and abstract part, and look at the different stances. And if you could put those stances somewhere on this spectrum, let me know. Sorry. Yeah. So have you got the articles? Guys, you need to help me. I'm struggling with the platform and secondly for interaction because it's getting difficult for me to conduct a class here. Can somebody come online and tell me? Because I think I am talking like an idiot to a camera, not understanding anything. So Muhammad Islam has the study used grounded theory to understand how people debug programs by observing their real debugging activities. This is the extract of the paper. So what is the viewpoint? Right, we're talking about ontological and epistemological viewpoints. So, without expecting you to get into a group discussion on this, this is what the two paper talk about, right? Code quality is fixed and measurable. The ontology is realist ontology, and epistemology is positivist epistemology. They are connected together. Debugging is lived, interpreted skill. That's how the second paper construes it. It's constructionist or interpretivist ontology, epistemology, and constructivist ontology. Metrics at scale, trustworthy evidence, positive epistemology, and researcher who constructs meaning with participants, interpretive stance. So if you look at this spectrum, right, you will see that where is interpretivism here on the extreme right, positivism is here. But there is a consistency in the paper thought process. If you the realistic realism they are adopting, they will follow the objective, measurable uh, epistemology, and if it is interpretivist, then subjective. So you would see the spectrum from objectivism to subjectivism and positivism to interpretivism, and they are aligned, right? That is what is um, the exercise about, right? Going forward, should we go forward? So this is what I would expect you to do. Uh, Submit a 150 word note. Does your own research topic treat its central phenomenon, performance, usability, security, quality as an objective measurable fact, or as something constructed contextual, and what values might be shaping how you are framing it, right? So we'll take a small 10 minutes break here before we get into the second part of the session, which is on difference between Indian and Western methodology, right? But I find it difficult, right, to communicate with you. There is hardly anybody communicating, no questions, no interactions. Or should I keep on just showing the PPTs, right? No responses? Nishant, are you there? Hmm. Okay, we'll take a 10 minutes break and come back after uh, it is 3:06. We'll come back at 3:15 for the second part of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me, sir. I am not able to hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
It's
So we're
not
taking
audible.
a break. We'll get into the second session. I was just trying to find out some activity based because this class was not engaged at all. People were. Um it's difficult for me to conduct a class without any interaction. So I'm trying to find out some activities to get into the second part of the session. Right? Just give me a minute, and I'll come back to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon again. Welcome back.
Yes, sir. Yes. We are good afternoon, sir. Sir, we have to take any article. So you are unmute. So you are unmute. So you are so
Yeah. So the exercise is we are talking about understanding of one concept being looked at from different perspectives, philosophical perspectives. So
yeah
what you need to do is you need to go to Google Scholar, pick
yeah.
up any random article related to whichever you think is appropriate for you. Pick up that article, copy and paste abstract in this, try and make sense of the article first, and then complete the exercise. And you can paste your output in the chat. And I would like everybody to do it.
Okay, sir.
Sir, I have query. So these three articles can be any article from our area of interest.
Uh, you can try it out. I had made the artifact specific to culture as a template, but nonetheless you
Mhm.
can try it out. Yeah, it should not restrict it. Yeah.
So you just want comparison between three articles
Yeah,
about their
comparison.
method.
Ideally, if you could talk to each other and get one article each, and then you can get those articles together, compare those. That would give you a good, insightful understanding of what different perspectives could be there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
But the concept, take the concept is same across, right? One concept related article. Maybe it could be um, management culture, organizational development, some concept, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Yes, Sujit sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just
So you
created the snapshot only.
okay? So
I
that
have taken
snapshot
one
you are
article.
pasting it in the article, right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I just made this
Or
snapshot.
maybe if there are related areas, people can paste it here and you can use those as reference. The output can be pasted here, but you would need three outputs, right? The template is designed that way. Actually, I wanted you to make groups of three and do it together.
Okay. So three
But
articles.
nonetheless, we'll start doing activities like this because the first session is also I need to get an understanding of the audience. So the PPTs and talk is not going to work. Only activities are going to work. So I'll work it that way. Yeah. I can see only one response. What about others?
So still
Working
doing
on
it.
it. Sir, it may be annoying to you, but the thing is, sir, can you repeat this because I am not able to follow during the network. I have joined also late.
Uh-huh.
Here in the West Bengal, there is a heavy monsoon is there. I am
Uh,
extremely sorry for this.
Someone, there is in the chat box. Can you see this cloud article?
Yes, yes, sir. I can
So
see.
you need to just click on that. There are
Yeah.
instructions in the link.
Okay.
It has got to do with what we earlier spoke about. There are three
Mm-hmm.
things that we spoke about. One is what is
Mm-hmm.
reality, how that reality can be known, and what are the
Mm-hmm.
values of the researcher. This is the axiology, entomology, and epistemology.
Yeah.
So this link would help you pick up a paper, put that abstract and methods in that section, and it will give you an output analyzing what is the epistemological and ontological stance of the paper, right?
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
it is an AI generated output. So it is unless there is a human oversight, you cannot trust that completely. But it will help you understand. There on the same concept, there could be multiple views, multiple stances, and all those stances could still be valid at the same time.
Okay. Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in order to save time, you can pick up some review given by somebody pasted here if the article, the concept is related to that.
Oh, okay, sir.
So the comparison of the three articles, we need to paste it here.
Yeah, no, you
Okay.
don't have to. You be ready with it. You take three articles.
Yeah, yeah, that is
The
done. The comparison
output
is
would
done.
not be there unless you compare three articles, right?
Yeah. So I finished it. I've done the comparison. I've got the this also for this ontology and epistemology and synthesis for the all the three articles comparison after
Okay,
doing it part.
great. We will have a discussion on that. You can paste it
Okay,
here.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rahila. You've looked at all the three articles, scanned them, and then you got this output.
Yes, sir. After taking the three articles relatively to what I wanted, I took the abstract and the method from them and then pasted. And after that, the comparison I got is these three things.
Okay. So what do you how do you make sense out of this? Three
I'm just
papers.
reading
What?
after the comparison I've got. I'm just reading. Let me just read it and then
Okay.
I'll tell you, sir. Yeah.
Just read it. Yeah. Yeah.
So the three articles that I selected for comparison was related to education in AI. One was with the intelligent robotics, how the learning could be transformed, from the theoretical to a practical based. And the second was like the impact of AI on the higher education, relatively to what kind of ethical, social, and educational implications it can have. And the third one was relatively to the AI enabled mobile learning platforms, that is like for the university level. So each level was a bit different from the primary higher to the university level. In this, the aspect that the key takeaway relatively to the what you can say uh, to the ontological was related to the technological determinations and objective, and how social constructivism and institutional reality was been connected to this part. And there was data collected related to the student test scores, the signal scores, z scores, the transformations, and some kind of ethical and privacy, kind of systematic readiness data was collected for the higher education. And for the university learning, it was relatively to the collaborative learning, the latent patterns of the students compatibility and group synergies, and the mathematical representations was being considered for this. And relatively to the epistemological approaches, it was related to the knowledge validation through the statistical data, and the post test comparison was being done. And for the second one, it was more over the broad stakeholders perspectives, like for the higher education, what kind of concepts should be introduced related to the AI, so that they go into the proper ethical way for understanding how AI can be used in the learning. And the third one was relatively to the university. So there it was more of computational optimization kind of approaches that was being used. And the together the three the illustrations were relatively to the how AI can be kept on moving higher in a positive manner, and in technical reduction paradigm that can quantify learning outcomes to an algorithmic structured human interaction, and social technical kind of measures for the human values, for ethics and systematic adoptions and other things,
Okay.
if
So
I'm not wrong.
what actually I would like you to do now is because you have done this, right? The paper
Yeah.
with the help of AI, we have been able to
Yes.
analyze those papers into separate parts and to
Hmm.
take a view for on each paper on epistemological, ontological, and axiological view, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And each paper would have a different stance on different things, right?
Yes. Right.
So now the next question, having tried this, we want to put it in our framework, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'll just what I'll do, I'll show that part of the presentation, right,
Hmm.
which we were going through, and then relate the dimensions. I'll show that slide to you. Just 1 second. I'll
Yeah.
open that, and so what this is what we need to do, right? Let me share. Let me share. Let me
Yes.
share. Where is it? Right. Any window? Which window? This. Right. This is what we need to do, right?
Yes, sir.
From philosophies to approaches
The
to
precious.
strategies
Yeah.
to choices to time
Hmm.
horizons, techniques to data collection tools.
Yes.
Right. So now
Yes, sir.
each of the article, the three articles that you studied, would have
Hmm.
some bit of it, right? Not everything
Yes,
interestingly,
yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now looking at these three articles, then
Hmm.
you would have your own research in your mind, right? The broad research question that you would have in your mind, right?
Yes, sir.
Keep that at the back of your mind, but compare these articles on where they go, and then
Hmm.
also look at this dimension slide that I was talking about,
Okay.
right? So
Hmm.
if you can say this, right, there
Hmm.
are perspectives, ontological perspectives,
Hmm.
positivism, postmodernism, critical realism, pragmatism,
Hmm.
and epistemological perspectives, right? From objectivism,
Hmm.
there is a dimension, realism to
Hmm.
interpretivism, right?
Yeah.
Interpretivism and nominalism. Then objectivism to subjectivism, value free
Hmm.
to value laden, right?
Yes, sir.
Quantitative
Yes, sir.
to qualitative. Now there will be consistency across those articles. Each article would be consistent in one a particular perspective, right? So they would have
Yeah.
taken some ontological perspective. The ontological
Yeah.
perspective would be consistent with the epistemological perspective,
Hmm.
axiological perspective, and then methodological perspective. There will be a consistency across, and then the methods
Yes,
would
sir.
have been defined, right?
Yes,
Try and
definitely.
evolve and see if there is a pattern in that.
Okay.
And if the patterns across papers they differ in nature,
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe you
Right.
would find some paper which is on interpretation side, right?
Hmm.
On this side of the
Hmm.
continuum, you would see
Hmm.
that the reality is socially constructed, right?
Hmm.
You would
Hmm.
see that subjective methodology would be implemented there, right?
Hmm.
Epistemological interpretation, interpretivist,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah,
And
so basically, see, the very first paper what I took relatively to the education in AI, which was practical hands-on learning with a specific robot. So now they didn't take the comparison, like they didn't compare any other, like it was a complete design frame-based working model, okay, of implementing one robot into one aspect, like to understand the maths, maybe the angles in a better format or the distance calculation. So
so
if it
that is
is
realism and
relatively
objectivism,
uh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So all the three papers are not having the same thing. It is different aspects. If you take it on
Yes.
the ontology and this, so here you want me to compare and tell what aspects it is having each of this paper.
Yeah. So
Okay.
generally making sense out of all the papers and the
Yeah.
consistency baskets, the baskets that I was talking about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so here
Yes,
if
sir.
you look at where is the so there are ready-made baskets, right? So for example, this is no not this one. Where did I mention it in the PPT? Yeah. Positivist, yes, you will see realistic ontology and positivist epistemology.
Yes. Yes, I can.
So you will see critical realist ontology and pragmatist epistemology.
Mm.
Interpretivist and critical CS, constructive ontology. So there will be some combination of these,
Right.
right? And similar
Yeah.
combination for your research also you would need to choose,
Okay. Got it, sir.
right?
Now I
So
guess. Yeah.
so so it's a quick way to get into what is actually required and this diagram, traversing along this diagram, right? I
Yes.
hope it
Yes.
helps, right?
Yes, sir, it does. It does. It makes now it makes more interesting in learning this aspect. This
Yeah,
activity makes it more interesting.
yeah. Thank you so much, and we'll do more of this if it helps,
Yes, yes, sir, definitely.
right? So others have done it. Yeah, who else has done? Kajal, Kajal, ma'am. Muhammad Islam. Yeah, who would like to come on air and tell me what is the output of the exercise, or we should go ahead with the next topic?
So wait,
Purva,
so
yeah, Trupti.
wait, sir, I will need more time, 2 to 3
Okay.
minutes more.
Yeah, take your time, no problem. We just need to finish before we close. We have how much time now? Oh, 1 hour 10 minutes. Yeah, plenty of time, no problem. Yeah, Yogita, who would like to come forward and share? Yeah, I think it is a time-consuming activity. So what we will do, right? Um, you take this activity, complete this activity, and you will have your broad idea about your own research topic, right? Connect these papers, find out the differences, and apply the kind of synthesis that is done through AI to your paper, and how does it connect to your paper, right? Is that fine? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it would be the first assignment for you, right? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we'll go
Yes, sir.
ahead. So you submit it to me before the next class, right? So all you need to
Yes.
do is to
So we
get the
have to submit in
synthesis.
a chat box or
You put it in the chat box and also submit. Of course, you will need to append it with your connecting it with your research own idea, research idea, na?
yes, yes, yeah.
So currently, what you're doing is you're doing that AI exercise and putting, copying and pasting it here, right? What I expect you
Mhm.
to do is make sense out of the three articles. What are the streams? What is the how the combination happens? And in your own research, whatever research idea that you have currently, in the context of that research idea, how does it apply, and how do I start evolving my philosophical thought process, right? A
Okay,
small write up
so
on that.
we have to take up our own topic or own our
No,
whatever the
broad
research
research
we.
idea, broad research idea. Think of
Okay,
your own beliefs, think of your own values, think of your own reality stance on entomological stance, right?
yes,
Evaluate
sir.
your own stance, question those. So that kind of reflective understanding should come in the answer to that assignment, right? So
Okay,
I'll
sir.
repeat what I'm expecting you to do. Take these three papers, take the AI output, take the comparison of this, the synthesis of those three articles, understand that, use that understanding to take your work, your own ethical stances, ethical, philosophical stances further, right? Half a page write up. Okay, I'll make it more explicit in a piece of paper and we'll mail it across to you. Right? We'll go on to the next
Okay, sir.
topic. And just as an aid, before we do that, here is a jargon decoder I'm circulating to you, right? And I'm moving on to the presentation. So, in case you come across a jargon which you find difficult, you can click on this. You can use this, and It will help you understand that jargon. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So the next
Yes, sir.
topic is comparison between an interesting comparison between Indian and Western philosophy. Right. What do you think is the difference between the two? How is Indian philosophy different from Western philosophy?
Sir, if you're sharing some slide, we are not able to see anything. We can see.
I
We
have
can just
shared
see
a
the.
cloud artifact, right? I'm yet not
Okay,
yet
yeah, yeah.
shared. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So that is a jargon decoder. Just in case you come across a term which you are not able to, um,
Mm-hmm.
you can just refer to that without asking me, right?
Yeah, this is nice, sir.
So I think this works for you, right?
Yeah.
So we'll follow the same methodology, no problem. Yeah. One
Perfect, sir.
second. See, so finalization, Eastern Indian philosophy. Yeah. So this is. I need to share. I'm yet to get comfortable with the platform. Share window. Just Indian. Yeah. So there are two extreme thought processes. As I was speaking to you, I said that there are two viewpoints. One is headed by the Advaita school, which is Indian thought process. Uh, Aham Brahmasmi. Shankaracharya had said, Shlokardhena Pravakshami Yaduktam Grantha Kotibhihi. Right? Jeev and Brahma know different things. Right? Brahmam Satya Jagan Mithya, Jeevo Brahmaiva Napara. So it talks about the world being an illusion. Brahma is the only reality. That's the definition of Vedic Advaita school. Most of the Indian schools would belong to that. Those who draw authority from the Vedas would have similar thought process. Of course, there would be some variations. We'll go through those variations. And there is a Western thought process which talks about I exist, therefore I am, right? Which is given by Rene Descartes. He said, ki, I want to doubt everything. I cannot rely on anything. So he kept on through the process of doubting. He arrived at a final truth which he called cogito ergo sum, right? I think, therefore I am. Because I think, I accept my existence. And he tested everything on reason. So that is the process of rationalism. So earlier I explained that to you. We'll get into the presentations on what are the differences between Indian and Western thought processes, philosophical philosophies, and the common grounds amongst that. Right. So two ways to finish the sentence. I know this is true because Western philosophy thinks philosophy is not one of the natural sciences. The result of philosophy is not a number of philosophical propositions, but to make propositions clear. Right? This is given by one of the analytics school language analyst, Wittgenstein. And then there is the Indian thought process, Darshana. We call Darshana, we don't call it philosophy, right? Initially saying having glimpses of the truth and intuitive vision, subsequently tested and systematized by reason, right? And there are definitive differences and definitive commonalities between the two. Hold on to different, we'll return to towards the end, right? So this is a quick timeline of what Western philosophy, how it evolved and how Indian philosophy evolved. Right, ancient philosophy was about Greco-Roman scholars who were after who were called naturalists, and they were after what is the fundamental constituent essential element of all the things. That started from 6th century BCE till 5th century CE. And they were investigating what is the fundamental matter which is essence of everything, whether it is water, whether it is air, whether it is fire. There were several debates on it. The fundamental curiosity was what? What constitutes, what is the real world made of, right? Then came the medieval scholastic school, 5th to 15th century, modern, which is headed by Descartes and Kant, and then the current contemporary school. So you would see there are discontinuities right? Two very different historical self narratives from here. But Indian philosophy continued because it draws fundamentally all source of authority it draws from Vedic schools. There are, of course, in the 6th century BCE, because of the prevailing circumstances, then there were heterodox schools which did not accept the authority of Veda, and there were Charvaks, Buddhism, and Jainism. These were the schools which came about. Then, of course, Indian schools, six darshanas, classical schools, and it continues, still continues. The thread continues because it is essentially the authority is drawn from Vedic period. So you would see continuity in Indian system. You would see some ruptures in between in the. So it is like paradigm shift, ancient to medieval, medieval to modern, modern to contemporary in the Western philosophies. The paradigm shifts were there. Um, any questions on this? The important six darshanas you would all know about is these darshanas are Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa or Vedanta. These are six schools which draw authority from Vedas, and each has different emphasis. Right? We are going to get into details of this subsequently, but that's the Western continuity is broken. There are paradigm shifts, whereas in the Indian philosophy you would see continuity because the authority comes from Vedas. If you come across any term, you can refer to that tool to find out what details it every term means, right? What is real and what is appearance? There are again, what is real is reality, knowledge of reality, right? So reality, Western reality, Heraclitus talks about everything is flux. You cannot step into the same river twice. Parmenides said change is an illusion. Reality is one, changeless being. Plato said the sensible world in appearance. The eternal frames are real. Kant said phenomenon. How things appear is phenomena. Things in themselves. There is a difference between things in themselves, the actual reality, and the reality that we can see. We cannot go beyond phenomena. Phenomena we cannot know. The Indian schools, Buddhism, no permanent self, Anikka, Advaita Vedanta, the world is Maya. Appearances were on non-dual Brahman. Sankhya dualism, Purusha and Prakriti, right? Both are real. Nyaya Vaisheshika hard realism, the world exists independent of mind. Nyaya realism alone disproves Indian philosophy is equal to everything is illusion. One entire orthodox school is hard realist as Aristotle, as hard realist as Aristotle. If you have questions, do raise those. How do we know everything? Again, this is question is about epistemology, right? Western epistemology about rationalism, which is given by Descartes, Leibniz, Spinoza, rationalist, and knowledge from reason, innate ideas. Empiricism of these are two extremes, right? Rationalism versus empiricism. Locke, Berkeley, and Hume were the key proponents of this school. Mind as a tabular, the tabular is a clean slate, right? So everything we learn from our experiences. Kant's try to synthesize between the two perspectives. Sensation supplies content, reason supplies form. Indian schools, there are different theories, Pramana theories, right? Valid means of knowledge, we accept perception, inference, and testimony. Shabda. Testimony is not accepted as a proof of knowledge in the Western school, which is Indian exception. Nyaya, a formal inference theory, as rigorous as Aristotelian syllogism. Charvaka perception only, rejects inheritance and testimony outright. Charvak is Indian known hard-nosed material school, arguably a more radical empiricism than Hume. right? We need to get into the details of each, but we will go in using a different methodology, not a PPT presentation. Of course, there were some questions which philosophers have been trying. What is good life for, right? Aristotle, utilitarianism, Kant, existentialists, they had different views on each of these. Indian views have been constant, revolving around Purusharthas, Kama, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha in ascending order. Kama, Artha, Dharma, Moksha. Right? Moksha is emancipation. Ethics embedded in karma and the cycle of rebirth, samsara, moksha, liberation, release from the cycle of existence itself. So this was the key goal of Indian philosophers, complicating the cliche, not materialist West versus spiritualist. The real difference is background metaphysics of time, linear versus cycle. Indians, cyclical metaphysics. These were linear metaphysics, Westerners. What is the method? How does the philosophy proceed? Socratic dialectic, Descartes' method of doubt, scholastic disputico, thesis, cited authority, counter argument, and synthesis. We also had our own way of philosophical debates. Vada, right? Darshana, intuitive vision, then tested and systematized for by reason. Purva Paksha. We never had debate in a sense two sides. We have always Purva Paksha and Uttar Paksha, right? And Siddhanta. Complicating the cliche, scholastic disputico and Purva Paksha Siddhanta are structurally near identical. Two traditions, no contact, same rigorous form. So, what are the three common genuine commonalities? One is both begin in dissatisfaction. The Genesis was wondering, the Greeks were wondering what is the fundamental element that constitutes all nature, what is the material cause of the nature. And Indian philosophy started with dukkha, suffering, getting rid of dukkha, right? Be it Buddha or all Vedic schools. Both build independent, rigorous logic traditions, and both contain an sorry, internal skeptical materialist minority. So we also, the sophists were challengers, they were skeptics. Even Rene Descartes was a big skeptic. Charvaks in India questioned the Vedic authority. Charvaks used to say, रणम कृत्वा घृतम पिबेत. कर्ज करके भी आपने enjoy करना चाहिए. That's what Charvak used to say. Three genuine distinctions tell you the reason. The life flourishing, autonomous reason. Indian context is liberation from cycle and existence. These are the reasons. Authority, modernity substantially defined by separating from religious authority. Indian Orthodox schools treat scriptures, Shabda, as one valid pramana which is not accepted in Western traditions. Self-understanding of history narrated through rupture, each era overturning the last. So there are paradigm shifts in Western thought process. But Indian thought process you would find narrated through continuity, commentary on received vision. So there's a question for you. Which of the four questions is most alive in your own research right now, and which traditional standard of proof are you consciously using? Right? Reality, knowledge, good life, or method? More often than not, it will be reality and knowledge. So it is not about Western reason and Eastern spirituality. We generally confuse between the two. Two independently rigorous traditions, each containing its own rationalists and mystics, skeptics and believers. The real skill is noticing which tradition standard of proof you default to. Right? That's I've been through the PPT. Questions? Are you all there? Confirm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the PPT, of course, I'll share that PPT with you. I can share it right away, right? So that you can look at if there are some common terms. The common terms, the terms which are complicated, they're there in the jargon dejargonizer. You can quickly take a look at it so that every term it becomes easy for you to understand. Yeah, I think that's it for today. If there are questions, you can go ahead. The assignment is already given to you. I'll explain that. I'll give a brief explainer, a document giving you what I expect out of the assessment, which whatever I've explained, the three articles, you need to put it in the AI tool, get the output, understand that output, right? And briefly explain to me as to how that output applies to your research work.
So, sir, it is okay having the methodology completely different in each three articles.
Yeah, yeah. So the article is a quick way to get into the framing the complete cycle from philosophy to methods, right?
Okay, sure.
So because of AI we can do it fast. Otherwise, it would have taken a lot of time. Of course, AI would need human oversight. It is what AI gives. You cannot accept it on the face of it. You would need human oversight whether they have done it appropriately. But mota moti taur pe, you will get a sense of what these articles talk about and how they convert the philosophy into approach into till the final data collection tools and analysis sense making.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you for
if
the
you can do
explanations.
it, if you can do it for multiple articles, you don't have to restrict yourself for three. In the your areas, as the areas get concretized, you can look at those topics, and from that area you can pick up article and use the same tool to do that.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sir.
Right? But for assignment purposes, for a quick this thing, so it helps you get into philosophy quickly, and all levels of that are given in the onion diagram. You can quickly start working on that. And as we go along, we'll go get into the details of every concept, every perspective in a little more detail, so that the understanding starts becoming even more clearer. Right?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yeah. And I hope this methodology helps you, the activity based.
Yes, sir. It is clear.
Yeah. How many of you think that this methodology is better so that I start working on that instead of a PPT presentation? Can we have a quick?
So,
Yeah.
yes, sir, this methodology is good methodology. Actually, taking activities because also we also aware about what to do. Otherwise, showing a PPT that's not.
Oh, it also helps me because I feel like talking idiot talking to a camera, which I can't do for long, right? I'm not used to this online platform where everybody is silent, so this is becoming difficult for me. So I'll do more activities. Let's do activities. Let's get into core of research and do that job of understanding those levels of layers of onion and एक एक करके ओपन करते जाते हैं डिटेल में, right? So let's stop here unless you have something to do. Yeah. I got two confirmation. There are no others wanting to confirm this, the methodology part. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. Chalo, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Solutions.
Thank you.